Okay, I'm Matthew Mitchell, the convener for Introduction to Programming, and in this short video we're going to look at selection statements. Now, one of these is a common if statement, whereby you have a condition which tests a variable. In this case, the double equals sign here is asking whether count is equal to 5, and that will evaluate as either true or false. And if it's true, then it'll come down to what's called the consequent, and it'll print out it matched using putS or putString. And if it's false, then it'll come down to what's called the alternative, and it'll put out no match. So that's the basic structure of the if statement. We have if this condition is true, then execute the consequent. Else, if it's false, execute the alternative. And then that ends the statement. That's one statement. So we're going to look at how we can use that in our programming. So we're going to build on the example we were using in the last video, where we basically prompted for a username and read in a username. That's what getUsername does. It displays a prompt, reads in a username and returns it. And then we were printing the username, passing in also a prompt. So getUsername, which is up here, prints out the prompt, reads in the username and returns the username. That's what comes out here. And then printUsername takes a prompt, which simply says the username entered was such and such, and then the username, and it prints them out. So that's what it looks like when it executes. Please enter username, and I typed in Matt Mitchell. That was the get function. And then the printUsername function says the username entered was, and prints out Matt Mitchell. So we want to now add in some extra processing here. So maybe we're going to add another function. We've got getUsername, and maybe just to clarify this, I might change that to ReadUsername, and that to ReadUsername. And we might now get an age. Maybe we'll have UserAge. We'll go read user age, and I'm just going to hard code a prompt. So this is not advisable, but this is something you can do. You can just hard code a value in here, which is please enter the user's age. Now, please enter the user's age. We'll read in both the username and we'll read in both the user age, and then we'll print the username and we'll print the user age. So we're going to go print user age, and we're going to have a prompt. The user age was, and then we're going to have user age. So you can see in this case the prompt is a string that's stored in a variable, and I pass in the variable. In this case, I've just hard-coded the string straight into there. I could do the same thing. I could put that in a variable and pass in a variable. So that's two alternative ways of achieving the same effect. But I'm going to need a ReadUserAge, and I'm going to need a printUserAge. We already have ReadUserName, so let's copy that. You've got to be very careful when you do this, that you make sure you change everything. ReadUserAge, put string prompt. That can stay the same. They both use ReadUsername and ReadUserAge both take a prompt. This one gets a name. Now, that name by default is a string, and I want an age. So I'm going to have to, before I do anything, I'm going to maybe change that name to be an integer. So this is going to, before it does anything, it's going to take that name, it's going to convert it to an integer, and then it's going to return the integer. So that 2i means change this string to an integer. If you remember back in our first video, we talked about data types. All right. So this is a string because it just returns getString. This holds an integer because ReadUserAge converts its return value to an integer before it returns it. So then we go to PrintUserAge. We need that function now too, or procedure, beg your pardon. So we already have a procedure called PrintUserName. Let's take that and copy it because we're doing a similar sort of thing. But it's going to be an age. And that's going to be an age. And remember, that will be an integer. That will be a string. All right. But we also print out a prompt, just as we did there. And here we want to put string user age. Now, put string will convert the integer to a string, so we can do it that way. Let's just start with that and just check that the program's working. So that should just read in the name, reading an age, print the name, and print the age. Let's have a look and see if we've got all that right. Enter the username, Matt Mitchell. Enter the user's age. All right, that works fine. Okay, but I want to now put in the if statement that we were talking about. So we're going to change this print user age to do something a little bit more complicated. So we're going to say maybe if user age is less than 25, then we're going to put out a different prompt. I'm going to say something like the user is quite young. Yeah. In fact, maybe we'll take that, put that up there. So we print out the prompt and then the age. All right. That needs to be put string. So if the user age is less than 25, the user is quite young. I could just do that there, and that would just print that out. Well, let's just try that first. Let's see if that works. So I'll save that. Let's just test that. So we're going to go Matt, and we're going to put in, say, 20. Okay, that works okay. But what if the user's over 20? We won't get a message, a second message. So let's add an alternative. Else, the user is not so young. Let's try that. So that's a basic if statement. If the user is less than 25, the user is quite young. Otherwise, we're going to say they're not so young. There's a fairly arbitrary age. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to put in Matt, and I'm going to put in 30 this time. The user is not so young. Great. So that's one option. We now have an if statement. This will evaluate to be either true or false. If it's true, it goes to here. If it's false, it goes to there. But what if we want more alternatives? I mean, we could keep having if, else, if, else, if, else, but that gets a bit complex. So let's try another one. Another form of this. Case user age. And we'll go when 1 to 25 or 24. Put the user is quite young. When 25 to, I don't know, 35, put string, the user is, well, not so young. Let's just cut that. When 36 to 46, the user is really not so young. And put else, put string. The user is either under 1 or over 46. Now let's see how that one goes. Alright, we've got some errors, so let's have a look. Oh, we've missed the quotes there. So let's put that back in, and the color should have indicated that. Let's try that. So that seems better. Enter the user's age. Well, let's try 37 this time. The user is really not so young. Alright, so that's the correct category. And ideally we'd want to test all of these. Alright, enter the user's age. Let's put 66. The user is either under 1 or over 46. Alright, so that seems to be working. So we can keep testing those various conditions. And let's try if, and we should ideally test all those conditions. Let's try 0. Yep, so that seems to work alright as well. So that is a basic example of how we use selection statements. Either an if statement like we had originally, or this case statement which allows us more options. So in the case statement, if the value that's been tested here, user age, now this is not a true or false thing now. This is a number, and it's only when we come to here we say, is it between 1 and 24? That will be true or false. And then if it's true, we do that. Otherwise we say, is it between 25 and 35? That test will be true or false. And then if it's true, we do that. We come to here and we do this one. Is user age between 36 and 46? If that part is true or false, that test, then we do that. Otherwise, if none of those tests are correct, then we come down here to the default, if you like. So this is slightly different in that there's not a condition here. This is an age. It's, whatever age we type in, 0, 66, 24, that's what the number is. The test happens here in each of these cases. So that hopefully helps you get started with if and statements and case statements, and we'll come back and we'll do some more work on this example later.